Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, I'm making another lifting gift box. The internal box is 4 inches square and it's 2 inches deep. I've got a simple plate on the front which just comes across with hook and loop. Then if we lift the two doors open, I'll turn it this way so you can see. The internal box lifts up and your gift is inside, and I've just put a 4-inch square paper pad in there just so you can see that it does actually work with something in it. So it's very similar to the last project where we used ribbon, and with this one I've actually used 230 GSM pattern paper to create the lifting element of the box. So again, as we shut the lid, the box comes together like so. So this is today's project and let's get started. We will start with the inside box. So this is the box that the gift is going to sit in, and my box is going to be 4 inches square and 2 inches deep. My starting cardstock is therefore 8 inches, and on all 4 sides I'm going to score at 2 inches. Fold and burnish along all of the score lines. This is going to be a very simple tray. To make the tray, we'll take our scissors. We're going to cut up the first vertical to the horizontal, and I'm using a 230 cardstock, although it does actually feel thicker. So I am going to make sure that I remove the score line. And then I'm going to take a wedge from either side of the small corner tab. So that's our first corner, and we're going to repeat that on all 4 corners. Now as these come round in towards each other to make the tray, you'll find that these will butt up against each other, which is fine. It will obviously strengthen the sides of the box. If you'd prefer to have a smaller tab on the inside of the box, you could of course trim down the ends from these corner glue tabs if you wanted. As you can see, they're going to meet like so, so you could trim those if you wanted. Once your piece is prepared, we can glue it together. So I'm going to add glue onto the tabs, pull the tab to the inside and under the side section. Like so. Try and get a nice neat right angle, and we're going to repeat that process on all 4 corners. So this is the first element, and as I say, this is the piece that's going to raise up out of the box. So if you want to add pattern paper on, I would add that on now, and you'll need 4 pieces for the sides, and they will be 3 3/4 times 1 3/4. That's the first box prepared. Obviously you could add some pattern paper into the bottom if you wanted, and that would be 3 3/4 inches square. The next portion we're going to make is the box that this is going to sit in and lift out of. The largest piece will be 8 3/8 times 5 inches, and along the long side score at 2 1/8. Please ignore this score line here. Rotate 180 degrees and score at 2 1/8. You'll then have 2 pieces which are 5 1/4 times 3 5/8. Along the long side score at 1/2 inch, rotate 180 degrees and score at 1/2 inch. And on the short side score at 1/2 inch, rotate 180 degrees and score at 1/2 inch and 1 inches, and you'll do that twice. We'll take the largest piece and fold and burnish along the score lines. Take your 2 smaller pieces. Before you fold and burnish, just take your piece and just cut a sliver off of the end of this outer edge where we've got the 2 1/2 inch score lines, because this is going to sit underneath the other piece and it will just make sure that there's plenty of room for it to do that. So I'm just going to take a 1/16 of an inch away from that side of that cardstock. So we're now going to cut our smaller pieces, and if you have it in the orientation so that the 2 1/2 inch sections are at the top and we're in a landscape orientation, and we're going to start by removing the bottom left and right hand corner squares like so. Remove a wedge from this bottom tab. This is what is going to join onto the largest piece. Rotate the piece. Take a wedge from this bottom right hand corner like so. Cut up the next vertical like so, and up the next vertical. Rotate and remove the top square. So we've cut away that top corner. And then we're going to cut a wedge from this tab either side, and then cut a wedge from the long glue tab. Repeat that on the other end, and you will do the same on both pieces. So you'll have two pieces which look like this. Now what's going to happen is this long glue tab is going to adhere onto the free edge of the box like so. These is then going to come up, and these two side glue tabs here are going to adhere onto the side panels of the box like so. So if I sit it up that way, that's going to glue in like so. This tab is going to come onto the inside and glue onto the inside like so, and then this tab here is going to fold under and be glued to the 1/2 inch underneath, just to create an extra strength to the top ledge. Make sure this piece is nice and burnished, and I'm going to glue this flap on to this section here. Now that the ledge is stuck, I'm going to add glue to this glue tab here and stick it into the base of the piece like so. I'm going to stick this into here. Make sure this gets lined up. It's going to lift up and will come the side like so. Secure that both sides, and then I'm going to add some glue onto these two small tabs, and these are going to just tuck in the inside and help create the shelf. Push those into the middle, push over the shelf, and just use my fingers to secure those down into place. Make sure the shelf sits nice and flush with the top of the box. So that is going to sit in place like so, and then we're going to do exactly the same thing on this side. So that's the second box, and you should find that your internal box sits in the middle like so. So the next thing we want to do is make the doors, and the doors are going to cover the whole of the side panel and then come across halfway across the box. For the doors, you'll need two pieces which are 1/16 of an inch over 2 3/4, and along the long side score at 2 1/8. And then the extra element that's got the 1/16 of an inch will be for the top element of the door. Fold and burnish in both directions. It's just going to make life easier when we come to adding in the mechanism element. So you can now go ahead and adhere the two doors on like so. Next, we're going to make the mechanism. So this piece is 11.5 inches long, and it's 3 7/8 of an inch wide. And I've folded it in half just to get the halfway point. So I've got a crease line here. So that's our mechanism, and my mechanism is going to sit that way up. So as the box comes up, this is the side that you're going to see. So we want to do some marking on our pieces. And the first thing we want to do is on our box, I've made 2 small black marks, top and bottom, to indicate the halfway point across the box, 2 inches. So that's going to give me an indicator that I want to line my pattern paper up with the halfway point on the box. And then the next set of marking you want to do, and I apologise where you can see all the torn card on the inside, that will be covered, but obviously I had to work the measurements out. and you want to make a mark on the inside doors 1 inch away from the join, which I've done here, and then 1 inch away from that pencil mark. So this is giving us an indicator as to where we can glue. So I've marked 1 inch away from the join, and then I'm going to mark 1 inch beyond that point. The first thing we want to do is add our mechanism onto the back of our box, and my box is going to sit on the top like so. So I'll do it this way up, and it'll be on the reverse. So I'm going to sit that, just put my black marks nearer to the edge, and I'm going to glue that across the width of my box to secure that in place. So I'm going to stick that on into place like so. Quite happy with that. Burnish that down, and then I'm going to fold down the ends and just put a crease line along so that the mechanism starts to form the shape of the box. That's adhered, and I'm just going to take my ruler and mark 1 inch away from the edge so I know where on this paper I can add my glue. So now everything is marked up and our base is glued into place. Sit the box into the outer shell like so. I'm going to add glue within this top 1 inch section that we've marked. I'll use my construction glue for this. I'm going to pull this out until the top edge of this mechanism is in line with the top edge of this outer 1 inch mark. I might need to pull the box out to start with. So I'm just going to pull that over, get that in position. Your box will be sitting proud, which is fine, and then I'm just going to glue that down into place. I can lift the box up in this direction and just burnish down that 1 inch section. So that 1 inch section is glued like so. And now I'm going to do exactly the same on this side. And then pull that up and out to line it up with the mark on the door. And again, I can just flip that up and burnish that down. So if I close the doors will come across like so, and as I open the doors, that is lifting the box up and down. So now I'm going to get on with my decoration, and I'll come back and show you what I've done. Here's the finished box. I've added my decorative paper onto all of the sides. I'll give you the measurements for these pieces that I've used. So for the 2 outer doors, I've got 2 pieces which were 2 3/8 times 3 7/8. Then for the sides, I've got 2 which were 1 7/8 times 5, and 2 pieces which were 1 7/8 times 3 7/8. I've put this simple plate across the front which is secured on this side, and then there's some hook and loop to secure this piece over. And then on the inside, I've just added 2 panels on the sides, and they were 3 7/8 times 1 3/8. So that is effectively the box finished. I will just put something in it so that you can see that it does work with some weight, if this will fit in. So that's a 4 inch square paper pad, and you can see that is lifting that out of there quite easily. So there we have today's project. Overall, I'm really happy with how this one has come out, and I'm happy that the mechanism is working as I intended. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, and until next time, thanks for watching.